Live from Orlando, Florida, you're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Basketball Podcast. And I'm trying to get through the intro, Al. We are your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony. We're joined by Orlando Magic HQ writer, Kieran. The reason why we're laughing and we're struggling is right before we came on air, we just received a notification about the Boston Celtics head coach getting officially suspended by the Boston Celtics. Man, it's really good to be an Orlando Magic fan. It's really bad to be a Celtics fan. Like, yeah, it is the NBA is such a unique league. Like, there is literally no days off. Like, I can't even enjoy like 11 o'clock at night. You receive this everyone gets a notification from Waj saying something happened, but nobody knows what happened. But it's so vague that you're forced for like a few hours. You're forced to go to sleep wondering what the hell happened with the Boston Celtics, and you wake up like, holy, wow, bro.
You know
like,
what I found funny is like I know Woj was planning to milk the whole thing for like probably another 2 days just so he could go on ESPN and talk more about it, and Shams just beat him to the punch like right in the morning, and I wake up like, okay, it's there. I know what Woj was planning, man. That's his whole scheme. It was hilarious.
It's such a dirty job. Woj has to be like easily the most hated person in NBA circles. Like, he has to be hated. Yeah. There's not one person outside that doesn't work inside of ESPN that can honestly say, like, man, I love this dude just airing out every little thing. You know who he reminds me of? Do you guys watch Game of Thrones?
No, I don't.
Man, I can't, because me and my wife, we just restarted watching Game of Thrones. If you don't watch Game of Thrones, I'm really sorry you're not going to be able to relate to this. But there's this guy in the first season, I think is Viserys. I think that's how you say it. Anyways, his thing is that he knows everything. He has little birdies everywhere that's like giving him information. That's who Waj is. Waj is that dude that knows everything about everywhere, and there's nothing you can do to escape it. If it's happening, it's being told to everybody.
Oh yeah, you can't get past him. Like, he'll post something about some Division III guy signing a Exhibit 10 contract on like Shanghai Sharks, and for no reason too, like just randomly. So everyone's getting a Woj notification like, oh, what happened? Like something cool happened. And you look, it's like the most random, most irrelevant thing that no NBA fans get to carry. Like, okay, he just wants every little scoop, every possible scoop. He wants it. It's crazy.
Like literally, this one he could have let go. He could have really let this one go. Like, for real, someone else could have had that. It could have been Chris Haynes. It could have been Mark Spears. Like, anybody but you.
No, he had to, and then he put his own little marking on the graphic too. The first thing he said is breaking news from Woj. He promoted himself.
He had enough time. He had enough time for that. And he left you with a cliffhanger. Like, my guy, like, why not just release everything that you knew all together in one tweet?
He has a business model. He wants everything to just get stirring. He can get people talking about him, and then hours later he releases the news like, oh wow, Woj is so on top of everything. Wow, he's going through this process. He's really taking his time. Like, no, he's just withholding. It's nothing different. He knew all of this whole time. He just wanted to make some revenue out of it.
I imagine him like reaching out to the Celtics and be like, yo, this is what I heard. Y'all got about 2 hours to tell me everything you know. If you don't tell me anything, I'm going to leak out the little bit that I do know until I know more. That's what I think.
I mean, what a week for the Celtics, though, huh? So they lose their starting center. This happens with the head coach. And then a few weeks back, we got the Gallinari news as well. That he's going to be out quite a while with his knee injury. So it's like, man, you make the finals. You're about to turn the page here and have a great season, and here we are.
Right after. I mean, like the thing is like they had a pretty odd formula because they started out just the same as they were looking the last couple of years, where they're play-in team, mid 500 team, and then all of a sudden they go on a run, which like look really promising. A lot of it was you can credit to Ime, and now that that's gone, I'm like, and they're down Rob Williams, down a good bench piece in Gallo. It's looking rough. I mean, they did add Brogdon, which is going to hopefully be good for them. But I don't know. I don't know if they can be anywhere near what they were last year. They were a force last year, like a real force. So,
hey man, but kudos to E-Man for at least sticking with it. Like he's gonna get that dude's gonna get so bashed. Like my guy, it's Nia Long, bro. Like you can't. What's wrong with you? Like you're literally by yourself. The whole world is against you.
Yeah,
he might as well just pull a Scott Skiles and just kind of hide under a rock for like a decade. That'd be my advice. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna talk about Magic basketball, right? I guess so.
Yeah, I guess.
So in today's episode, we talked last week about really jumping into our season preview. But before we jump into our season preview, want to highlight a couple things. First and foremost, man, big shout out to the Germany team and to Franz for getting that bronze. Really, really big deal for them. I know that they experienced some injuries, so they really didn't have a full healthy roster. But you just know that this team is going to be dangerous as the time goes by. And I think that as much as the fans were really kind of, it was kind of like a pull and push kind of deal where you really didn't want Franz to be out there playing after he hurt himself, because we didn't want him to risk missing training camp and miss the season. But man, Kieran, just because we haven't been able to hear your perspective, how great do you feel this experience will be for Franz going into the season?
I think it's huge. Like I wrote it in the article I posted. Like there's a lot of players that are big in the NBA that were big in the NBA. When they're European, they got a big start with stuff like Eurobasket, with playing in FIBA, because that's where you really get to develop your skills and you really get to be around a lot of veteran pressure, a real like fast paced or a little more fundamentally paced game. And then when you're only 21 years old, like Franz, and you're the premier focus of the defense in this very veteran tailored style of play, that's huge for him. Like that's just insanely huge. He already has this veteran presence to him now that we can say, okay, Franz is probably going to be one of like the top two leaders on this team, or the top two guys that you're going to look up to. Obviously, other than vets like Gary Harris and T. Ross, but on the court leaders, I would say Franz is going to have a very, demanding presence. So I think that it was a really good experience for him. And I know there was a lot of hesitation with like after that ankle injury. It did look nasty. I mean, I myself, I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, I don't know if I want him to play, because that looked awful. I don't want him to make it worse and then come into the season on a bum ankle. But he did, and he killed it right after. Like he just destroyed Greece. He did that nasty step back on Giannis. It was like, okay, he's clearly good. We just have an Iron Man in our team. No big deal. But I really do think it's going to be a really impactful experience. I really hope he does it, years coming, because it was a great experience for the viewers too. Like you really enjoyed watching it, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think that what people really need to highlight is the fact that you're right, man. This dude was able. It looked like a really bad injury, so the fact that he was able to play through it, like, it gives me confidence that if somehow we miraculously are able to put like a real playoff push together and something happens, that we're not gonna miss him for a season and a half. Like, this is someone that is capable of pushing through it. Like, his body is strong enough in order to do that. So that's definitely exciting. Now, with that being said, there's not a whole lot of basketball going on right now that Euro basketball is done. Now training camp is right around the corner. We're getting ready for media day. But in true social media fashion, we have ESPN and also CBS Sports that they don't like to stay quiet. They like to make some noise and come out with this magical thing called a top 100 player ranking that nobody ever agrees on. There's not one top 100 ranking that collectively the world says, man, you guys got it. Like, that was great, man. What team did you guys have reviewing that? That was amazing. So obviously another highlighted scenario where the Orlando Magic really isn't highlighted at all. It's great. So let's start off with ESPN. So ESPN only had one Orlando Magic player in their top 100, and they put Paolo. They put the one player that's never played for the Orlando Magic in an official capacity at number 82, which is
better than I can say. I
Hey.
can say I expected. I was thinking 99.
Man,
At
not
the best.
not bad. Never put on, never played on the court for the Orlando Magic in an official capacity. He's already our 82nd in the NBA. It's great. So we'll start off with that one before we get to the next one. Al, what are your thoughts? Is 82 too high? Is 82 too low? Should Paulo really even be on that list? Like, what are you thinking?
So that's the thing, right? So my opinion is Paulo has not played in the NBA yet. So how can he be better than, 300 other dudes that have been in the NBA, have been playing, but especially a few that played in the Magic last year and actually played fairly well. I think of a guy like Wendell Carter. I think of a guy like Franz Wagner, who actually had great seasons. And, in the case of Franz, was one of the top rookies in last year's draft class. If I'm not mistaken, 4 out of those guys that were in the first team for all rookies made it in the top 100 for ESPN. The only one that didn't make it was Franz. So it's surprising to me how certain things are happening. But one thing that just this clarifies to me, which is not surprising to any of us, our Magic fans, is how little ESPN knows about the Magic. It's that simple. It's easy to say Paulo's the number 1 pick. He's a great dude that played an amazing career at Duke, made it to the finals last year in college. Hey, he's a good guy. Let's put him in the top 100. But if you actually watch the Magic, you would know that guys, again, like Wendell and Franz should also be there. Probably higher than Paulo is right now. So happy for Paulo. I'm happy to see at least one Magic player out there. But come on, man. Do your research. Do better, ESPN.
Yeah.
Were there? I didn't get a chance to look at the whole entire 100 list because I refuse to pay for the paywall. But were there any other rookies on that list? Did we get a Chet? Did we get a Jabari?
I'm pretty sure.
An Ivy.
Not. I don't. I think Paulo was the only one. I know on another one, Keegan Murray was ranked ahead of Franz at some level. I'm pretty sure Keegan Murray was. Actually, I think it was this one. I know Keegan Murray was on one of those lists, and they picked him over Franz. And I don't remember if Chet was there. I think Chet might not be on just because of the injury, but.
Yeah, so I personally think that when it comes to these lists, I just don't think rookie should be on that list.
Oh yeah,
I don't. I believe that he has the potential to beat the 82nd best player in the NBA. He's definitely not getting paid as one, so that's a bonus. But I think that they should be players that are established. I don't see how in any capacity Franz is not on that list.
Yeah,
like why? And
it
then kind of taking a step forward, why isn't Wendell on that list? Exactly. I'm not saying that, man, one of the worst teams in the NBA deserves to have 3 players on the top 100, because if we really did have 3 players on the top 100, we wouldn't be the last team in the NBA. I get it, but I just think that either Franz or Wendell should definitely have a little bit of that respect. I think that Paulo has more of the name and the flash, and it's great for us, but if we're really like dissecting the top 100, I personally don't think Paulo should be on the list.
I mean, I see it as the ways like every other player, Franz made all rookie first team, right? Every other player on the all rookie first team, Jalen Green, Cade, Mobley, Scotty, they all made the list. And they were all like top 60 or something like that. Top 50, top 60. So the crazy part to me is how you can have all 4 of them, right? And Franz wasn't even the one that got the least amount of votes. Franz was top 3 in the Rookie of the Year race for a good majority of the year. And these are like these voters, they're like official NBA voters, they're media voters. How do you just have him left off the list? Like, how do you just forget him compared to the other players that you have at top 50, top 40, who are literally on his same level as described by all rookie first team? So it's again, it's an image issue. We're just not out there yet.
Yeah. So I have the list here in front of me. So Paulo 82. So Paulo, according to ESPN, is better than the following: 83, Aaron Gordon.
Oh,
amazing! Like who did that? That was great. 84, Jonas Valanciunas. I could never pronounce his last name right. You know who it is. 85, Jordan Clarkson. 86, the Unicorn, Porzingis, 87. Malcolm Brogdon, 88. Nurkic, we got 89. Mike Conley, Buddy Hield at 90. Anthony Simmons at 91. I'm butchering this names. 92. Christian Wood, D'Lo at 93. Brandon Clark, 94. Keegan Murray, 95. Seth Curry, 96. Kevin Love, 97. Mitchell Robinson, 98. Grant Williams, 99. And Bogdan at 100.
I don't know how you could say that either of those guys are better. Like almost a good, like, probably 10 of those guys you mentioned. I don't know how you could say any of them are better than Wendell.
Oh,
Wendell.
And I'm going there real quick. So you're telling me that Grant Williams, who's a backup on the Boston Celtics, is a better player than Wendell Carter? Another one too. I love the Curry family.
ESPN is disrespectful.
They are. I love Curry's, right? Steph is my dude. But you're telling me that Seth Curry, which I love to death, great shooter, would love to have him in the Magic one day, is better than Wendell Carter. So let me ask you this question. If I call the Nets right now and say, hey, I'm going to trade you Wendell Carter, all you got to do is give me Seth Curry, they would say no to that deal.
No, they're not even that. They'll drive Seth Curry to Orlando for you. Like, it's that simple. Like, there's no way that either of those, like, the players you're mentioning, there's no way any team would say no to just a 1-for-1 spot for Wendell, because Wendell has, like, more potential than, like, all of those guys. Wendell is better.
And one more thing I noticed too is, so you got Paolo 82, Keegan Murray at 95. Chet, I'm assuming because he got hurt, is not on the list. But then Jabari Smith Jr., who was supposed to be the first pick in the draft, ended up going third. It's not in the top 100.
He's not in the top 100, but you're going to love this, Al. Who do you think is 81? Just throw a name out there.
81.
81. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Josh Giddey, 81.
Come on, man. Better than Paolo. Okay.
Josh Giddey, 81.
But
that's what's weird. It's like you put Josh Giddey in there, but you're not putting Franz. Like, really, we're really saying that. Like, that's.
Can I ask you this, Al? Is Herb Jones on that list?
No,
I didn't see it.
And I'm checking right now, but he is not. No.
Lonzo Ball, that has no legs, nothing. 78. Honorable. You have Ben Simmons, 76.
Oh my God.
That's a little disrespectful. I get the bad publicity. I get it, but that's a little so disrespectful.
I think he's still good. He still has.
All right, we're gonna spend one more minute on this topic, and I'm gonna bring this up real quick. Number 39, Scotty Barnes. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
He's better than Zion, better than LaMelo Ball, better than, let's see, it's going Draymond Green, better than CJ McCollum.
Hey man, Vooch 57, Tobias Harris 56.
Wow. So they're respecting the Magic just a little late. A little bit late.
Yeah, according to ESPN, we had a squad because Vooch is in there, Aaron Gordon is in there.
Let me ask you, where's Alfred Payton now? Top 25 at least, right?
Oh man,
23rd.
All right, now kind of jumping into CBS Sports before we get into our season preview. CBS Sports only had one Orlando Magic player. This time it's Franz. Paolo did not make the top 100 list. It's Franz at 97, putting him ahead of the likes of Russell Westbrook.
That one, I saw a post on like Lakers Twitter or something that they were furious about it. There was a couple that were,
but they don't even like Russell Westbrook themselves.
That's the point. It's that we're that like disrespected to a point where not even the players they don't like, they would rather have him over a Magic player. But then there were some that were like, they at least had their head on straight. They said, you know what, I would absolutely give up all my Lakers gear and I would quit my fandom if they said no to a Russell Westbrook for Franz Wagner 1-for-1. Assuming money's not an issue. If we ever did that, I would stop being a Magic. I'm just being real. I would.
And this list is so weird. So people that the first few ahead of Franz is Norman Powell, Joe Harris, Bogdan, PJ Tucker, Vooch, Batum, Herbert Jones, Porzingis. He doesn't have any legs either.
So once
Kyle
again, guys,
Kuzma, 82. Kyle Kuzma.
I think what we're
I'll give
finding out
Kuzma
here
respect.
is, I think we're finding out that again, people don't watch the Magic, and it's okay.
Yeah.
They haven't had reason to. We've been tanking. We've been losing a lot of games. But man, I really hope this year, we're about to talk about this upcoming season here in a few minutes, but I really hope that people watch the Magic a little more, especially this national media people that have the audacity to do articles like this. Because man, not for nothing, it's embarrassing. And let's not even forget about NBA 2K, by the way. Those ratings are horrible and don't make any sense. But again, 2K doesn't watch the Magic either. They got Giddy rated higher than Franz. Doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is.
They gave Jalen Suggs the same perimeter defensive rating as like I think LaMelo Ball. Like they both had like a 79. I'm like, you guys don't even bother. Like to think about like this wouldn't even be that long of a process to watch and be like, okay, Jalen Suggs has really good defensive stats. Maybe let's up his defensive stats. Like it takes 2 seconds to work.
Yeah. So good old top 100 list. They give people like us something to talk about, gives people like you guys something to listen to, whether you agree or don't agree. It could be worse. They could have not mentioned any Orlando Magic players.
There's always something obscure though. They always got like the most random role players ahead of like some all-stars or something. It's like they do that purposely. We know that.
Yeah. Good old ESPN. All right, jumping into our season preview. So just to do a quick little recap, this off season, although according to some people, you could argue, man, the Magic really didn't do a whole lot. But I would argue they did a whole lot. So first and foremost, the biggest move the Orlando Magic did this offseason is obviously getting the number 1 pick. It's a big deal. Drafting Paolo, surprising the whole entire world. Drafting Paolo with that number 1. Magic ended up re-signing Gary Harris and Mo Bamba. We ended up bringing Admiral Schofield in for a 2-way. Also signed Kevin Harris to our secondary 2-way. And then we let Robin Lopez go and Iggy go in free agency. So a lot of people wanted more to be done, right? My argument that I've had is, man, if we didn't have Gary Harris and Mo Bamba previously on this roster before, and these were brand new signings that we did in free agent, people are saying, man, what a masterclass in free agency. Like that was a really, really good pickup. I think that one of the biggest highlights that people are going to really learn to appreciate is Mo Bamba this offseason. Regardless of how you feel about him, regardless of what you think about his motor, I think that him signing the contract that he signed to come back to Orlando, because that was one of the biggest surprises to me. I thought he was gone. That was it. We were gonna let him walk, and that was that. But I think that you bring him in with the contract that he signed, with the understanding that we're not expecting this man to be our starting 5. We're not expecting for him to be an all-star. You're gonna get a player that in some capacities will hustle, maybe not hustle in the way that you want him to, but he's gonna be able to stretch the floor. He still has that length and that wingspan. He's continuity with the team, and he's somebody that I feel comfortable with stepping in the event that Wendell Carter does go down, because we know that Wendell, he's not the healthiest person in the world when it comes to, avoiding injuries. But Kieran, I'll ask you first. Looking back, are we satisfied with the roster heading into this new season?
I mean, I think we are. I would definitely be like, I would be comfortable saying that that's probably the safest offseason we've had in a long time, because over the years we just keep changing, or we're just getting worse and worse. This feels like we're taking a step in the right direction, slowly moving back up towards, okay, we're building, we really have our core set. Like we know who the core players are. We know who we want to keep around. And what's really intriguing about the Mo Bamba deal is like, that's super team friendly. I think he's making like 11 mil a year. So the fact that he's willing to stay and to take this money to knowingly be a role player, even as like a former 6th overall pick, he knows that he is just here because he is going to contribute in the ways that he does contribute. It's valuable to the team. He knows that we're not looking, like you said, we're not looking to make him all-star. We're not focusing on his internal development as a player to become a star. We have players to do that. Like I said, there's always a formula. You pick 2 players. In this case, I hope the Magic pick Paolo and Franz, and you build around them. You build the right pieces. And like you said, I think that people are going to really appreciate Mo Bamba for his skill set more. Now that he comes off the bench, we'll see how valuable his rim protection is. playing around. Maybe he'll have some minutes with Paolo. He'll share minutes with Paolo. We'll see just how much gravity his shooting can bring. So that way it opens up avenues for Paolo to get to the basket easier. Paolo kicks it out, stretch the floor, pick and pop. A lot of scenarios where you can maximize his skill set. So I do think the Mo Bamba signing is great. Gary Harris signing is great. You guys already know how I feel about Gary Harris. Rough start to last season, really rough start. Everyone was going for his head, and then all of a sudden, he's putting up really good, putting up good minutes, good numbers. He has a good veteran presence. No reason not to keep him around, especially on a team-friendly deal. And the two ways I like that. Take a chance, send them to Lakeland, see who develops. If they can prove themselves, they get a roster spot. It's pretty simple. So I think it's the perfect offseason in your opinion. You're not looking to sign big free agents because you're not going to be a top seed in the East. Let's be realistic. That's another year ahead. So I think it was the perfect offseason. Keep it internal, keep it within the team, just build from within. And I think it's great.
Yeah. Now let's dial it back a little bit. The Magic have already suffered some injuries, and the season hasn't even started yet. Mo Wagner. We're looking at Gary Harris. Al, if you had $1,000 in your pocket right now and you were to put down $1,000 wager on this team, for the most part, staying healthy after season after season after season, dealing with these injuries, are you winning that wager? Do you honestly see this team now integrating back Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, who just got done with his surgery not too long ago, but should be ready by training camp? Do you see this team being able to have a healthy season finally?
I think they have to, right? So we've gone through 2 years, 3 years maybe, where health is an issue, mainly highlighted by J.I. on floors, but then we have Markelle go down to last year. We missed a lot of the season. Jalen Suggs missed a lot of the season. So the fan in me, of course, wants to see this team healthy. I think it's time that we see that. I think it's time that we see what do we have out there. Is the product that we put together good enough to compete at the NBA level? But most importantly, like Kira mentioned, who are going to be our key guys? Who are going to be the guys that we can carry forward, bring free agents in, and kind of build around those guys? I think that's what the season is all about. Because don't forget, starting next season, the Magic do have money to spend. They can make some decisions around adding some more talent to the young guys that we have. So we have to have that health component be a major factor for us. We got to stay healthy. Hard to answer that question, right? Because we're only an ankle sprain away from changing this entire answer, and we're back to tanking again. But if you ask me, I think we've made some changes in the staff that was announced this week. We brought in some new medical people. We need this year to be different. We need to stay healthy. We got to see the guys that got to be on the court, stay on the court. That's going to be the key for us. If that doesn't happen, we're back to square one, and don't be surprised if that is the case. And we're talking about tanking again come April, which again, that's the last thing we want to hear in Orlando right now.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully we're trending in that direction, because damn it, the Magic deserve it. They've suffered injuries. We led the NBA with injuries for not just one but a couple seasons, and you're hoping, you always go into the season hoping that is the case. Now, something to be excited about is our rookies that are now kind of going into their second year. You got Franz, you got Jalen, but not just the players, but also Coach Mose. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to listen to the Pod Squad with Mose. If you listen to that interview compared to the very first interview with the Pod Squad, we're hearing two completely different people. Yeah, you're hearing a more confident Mose, a more assertive Mose. I think that seeing him coach in his second year, where you're not worrying about getting to know the guys and getting to know your flow, I think him being able to have the ability to go in, this is my expectations. You guys already know what I'm about. This is what we're going to work on. We're going to hold you guys to these expectations. I think that we're now going to be able to really see the reason why we brought him in, which is to be able to develop these guys. And I think that that's going to be one of the heights that we're going to be able to see with Coach Mose in this team. How excited, and Kieran, I'll give this to you. How excited are you to be able to see Coach Mose in the second season and to be able to see Franz coming off of EuroLeague and hopefully a healthy Jalen Suggs, where, most people, and not just the fan base, but publicly, most people really weren't impressed with them last year?
Yeah, they wrote him off. I think the one I'm most excited to probably see is Jalen Suggs, is to see him take that leap. We already know he's a great defensive player, and we already know that Franz is going to be great. I feel like I have this feeling, Franz is already going to do his thing. He's going to have an increase in points per game. He's going to have an increase in touches because Mose can see that. If you listen to that pod squad, you know that he can see that talent, and he's, instead of going from, oh, I'm just going to take it step by step, I'm going to learn with this team. He has a vision. He has a vision set out for this team right now, and you can tell he's focused on it. He knows what he wants, and he's going to get it this year because he's, like you said, he's a completely different person from the first year. He learned a lot. So I'm just excited to see that dynamic between, okay, you went from a rookie coach going in here with no experience basically except assistant coaching, and you're going in here and you're leading this team. And although they had a very rough record, you can tell there was a lot of internal development. You saw Wendell Carter play like an all-star for a good second half of the season. So, but I mean, I would say those are given. I feel like the Franz development, Coach Mose being a lot more poised as a coach, I think that's kind of given. That just happens with time. But with Jalen Suggs, I feel like people are going to wake up with him. They're going to start to see, this guy has real potential, at which they didn't get to see a lot. He only played 48 games. And the shooting, that's not as much of a concern as people really make it to be. That's an outlier shooting season. You don't see shooting seasons like that for NBA players at all in general. It was very poor. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was very, very poor. But that's not going to happen again, especially when you have a training staff. You have a whole offseason to focus on it. You finally have your career set where he was playing football and basketball at the same time. Now he's really going basketball full time, 82 games a season. He's taking it step by step. And a lot of rookies just hit that road, hit that bump in the road. It's tough. It's a pretty tough wall to get over. But I'm just excited to see him wake up those people. A lot of people wrote him off. We know he's great defensively, but the offense is, guaranteed to improve. It's just to what extent are we going to see a 32% from three? Are we going to still see 25% from three? I'm hoping that it can really improve because it looks like he's been putting work in the off season. I'm just excited to see to what extent his improvement is going to be because it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of competition. You got Cole Anthony that's going to be fighting for that 2-guard spot next to Markelle. You got RJ Hampton that he really didn't have an impressive showing at all during the summer league, but there was talks about him really wanting to work on certain aspects of his game, and a lot of people are just saying, man, RJ Hampton is not that guy. I still think that there's potential there, but he's going to be someone else that's going to be fighting to be able to show what he's got. And Terrence Ross is somebody that you really don't know what you're going to get, how long he's going to be on the team for. You really don't know. The injury of Gary Harris allows for there to be more opportunity, but I think that this is a very, very important year for Jalen Suggs. Now, kind of transitioning into our Vegas predictions. So the Vegas predictions right now through DraftKings is that the Magic would win 26.5 games. All right. RotoWire.com predictions for the Magic is that the Magic will end the season 29-53. They would land in the 13th seed in the East. They would miss the playoffs. And that Fultz is firmly in the most improved playoff race, or most improved player race. Al, what are you thinking about those predictions? When it comes to the Magic record, because we've had this conversation numerous times where there's such a large gap of where the Magic, like we know that the Magic are talented enough to where they could surprise a lot of people the same way that the Cavs were able to do with Evan Mobley. But what are you thinking? Do you agree with these predictions?
I'm thinking it's more in that 29-53 record range. If you were to ask me, I think 26.5 is way too low. So if I'm betting on DraftKings, I'm betting the over on that. But I will say where I'm debating myself is, do the Magic, make the play-in? Do they make the playoffs? It's going to be tough. It's going to be dependent, again, on health. That's the number one thing for the team. So looking at these predictions, I do think the 29-53 seems like a realistic record. If things were to go south a bit, I can kind of see that being the top for the Magic. Missing the playoff, unfortunately, that could also be a reality. But the one that I'm the most excited about is Markelle Fultz truly being, in that most improved player race by the end of the season. We've heard about this before numerous times. But I mean, we saw the impact that this kid can have on this team last year when he came back and he actually played significant minutes, the lift that he gave this team. So if he can actually do that consistently, again, back to being healthy, that's key. That's going to be the key for him. I can definitely see him there. I can see him being one of the best point guards in the NBA, setting up the table for, again, Paolo, Wendell, Franz. He's got dudes around him now that can make him better also. So that's the one that I'm kind of highlighting the most. I think that is really the one that has the most reality of being a reality here based on what RotoWire is saying. But record-wise, I don't know. I guess we'll go back to that towards the end of our predictions here. But I do think 29-53 is a realistic record for the Magic, assuming a few things go wrong throughout the season.
I mean, I hope. Like, I think that Magic would be able to crack 30. But I think that that's also if everything goes right, if everyone is healthy, if our players are developing, if the integration of Jonathan Isaac really is impactful. I think a lot of things need to go their way because let's be honest also, like we know that there were times where the Magic lost, not because of the players, but because of the front office from decisions of maybe extending players not playing due to injuries. Like we know that the integration of our G League players that we brought in all season long, we know that had something to do with it. So I feel confident in knowing that we're going to win more than 22 games. But can the Magic really make that big of a leap? Can Paolo really make that big of an impact? I think that all those things are really important. Now, Kieran, when it comes to the Magic starting lineup, we feel confident Markelle is going to be the starting point guard, right? Feel pretty confident. We feel pretty confident that Franz will be our starting 3-man, right? Pretty confident.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's pretty obvious.
It would be a wild universe if the Magic didn't start their number 1 pick, right? That'd be pretty crazy, right? Starting Paolo at 4 or not starting him, that'd be pretty wild. And then we're all pretty confident that Wendell Carter would kind of hold down that 5 spot. Now, when it comes to the shooting guard position, the Magic could go in a lot of different directions. Me personally, I was expecting, and I also, if I was a betting man, I thought it would have been Gary Harris, at least to start the season, not to end the season, but to start the season. Gary Harris is obviously out of the question due to his injury. Kieran, who are you putting in that 2 spot when it comes to starting next to Markelle Fultz?
That's so like the fact that this is a question because we have so much talent on our plate is like that. There's so much to judge off. You have to question Suggs' shooting, his ability to space the floor. Obviously, the 2 options I'm talking about here are Suggs and Cole, right? I don't think there's really much debate. Terrence Ross is not really in the equation. I think it's going to come down to who's made the most strides in their areas of weakness, who's shown the most in practice. Obviously, all of this is going to come under Jamal Mosley's judgment. So we all know that he's not exactly afraid to start rookies, to start people who have just proved themselves in practice. Franz and Suggs were starting day one. I'm not obviously maybe not because of he chose that because he felt obligated to, just because we didn't have a lot of talent back then. But now we do. I think out of the 2 that we're talking about, Suggs and Cole, if I'm a betting man, I'll say Suggs starts just because the defense is just so crucial, and you kind of have to bank on the fact that he's going to improve offensively. When you're going in this trajectory, you need a guard that is at least somewhat competent in a lot of fields offensively. And I think that you can see him play as like that secondary playmaker, that connector, sort of like in the Lonzo Ball role, where you may not be facilitating the offense play by play, but you're going to be running it, a decent amount of times because this team needs that connector playmaker. Cole is a fine playmaker himself. I really love Cole's game, man. Like there's a lot of things I can compliment about Cole's game, but to put him in a specific role in this scenario, I feel like he works really good as a 6-man. I know he's very vocal about not wanting to be a 6-man on Twitter. I've seen that he sees it as, okay, I'm gonna prove myself. I'm a starter. And I think a lot of us last year were confident that he would never be in this conversation to start the season. But as time goes by, he starts to cool down a little bit. We start to see the struggles. It's a real question now. And Markelle coming back and being as great of a player as he was, that definitely didn't help his case at all. So you have Cole as for me, I definitely would put him as that sixth man. I know he probably wouldn't be up for it, but I would put him as the sixth man and have him play that Tyler Hero role. Good combo guard, can take the ball off the floor, can play make a little bit, but mainly there for scoring. You got to score in bunches, and to put up maybe around 16, 17 a game. We might see him in sixth man of the year conversations. So I think that's probably the best bet is to have Cole run your offense, be your sixth man, rely on him to just feast on second units, and have Suggs be out there mainly for his defense and banking on his offensive improvements as a starter. I think that's probably my safest bet.
Yeah, I think that it would be very, very difficult to believe that the starting lineup that we have in the beginning of the season will be the same starting lineup that we'll see in the middle and towards the end. I think that there's going to be a lot of competition. I think that that's great. Like we want that. I think that shooting guard position really is up to grabs. Can Jalen Suggs really, be lethal from behind the arc? Can we see an improvement there? Can we see an improvement defensively from Cole Anthony? Can Cole Anthony be consistent on the offensive end? And if he's not starting, can he still bring that firepower off the bench? So then, Al, that kind of leads me to the next question. Who do you think would lead the bench in terms of scoring? Who would be that firepower off the bench?
I think if you're trying to win games, a guy you got to think of right away is Terrence Ross, right? Guy has done it before. So, it's a guy that's going to come off the bench and fire right away. Open looks, he's going to take the shot. But if we're thinking about the fact that Cole Anthony may be coming off the bench, let's assume that is the scenario. I can also see Cole Anthony being that guy simply because he is going to get a ton of minutes. So one thing that I think Coach Mosley is going to get in his head is the fact that, hey, you may not be starting. You're not going to be announced a starter when, introductions are happening when the game starts. But you will play 25, 30, 35 minutes a night coming off the bench. So because of that, he's going to have the opportunities to shoot the ball plenty. We know he's aggressive. He loves to, score the ball. So if that is the case, I can see Cole Anthony leading this team off the bench and scoring. Another guy to think about too, J.I. If he does come back and he is healthy enough and he gets enough minutes, hey, it's the J.I. that we saw the bubble back. It's that guy that's going to be aggressive and take the open shot and attack the basket. If that J.I. is the one that we get, don't be surprised if he is backing up Paolo initially, but he assumes that role of a guy that's going to actually score the ball and be a creator, not just a guy that's in the corner taking the open shot. So in my opinion, it'll be Cole Anthony, but don't be surprised if J.I. is that guy too.
I think that our second unit is going to be fun to watch. I think that a lot of teams they're going to have issues with the fact that our teams we're young, but we're talented. A second unit is going to look like, if it's what I'm expecting, Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross. You're going to have Mo Bamba. You're going to have Bobo. Maybe
maybe
no.
Maybe.
Jonathan Isaac. Like, you're going to have these guys coming off the bench. RJ Hampton. You're going to have these guys like ready to put in work. So it's like
Chuma,
next man up. Chuma. How are we not talking about Chuma? Like, I know people have questions about his jump shot, and people are like, "What is this guy doing?" But this is someone that we're expecting to have another really, really good season. Like, there's a lot of bullets in the chamber. Like, I think that people are really, really going to sleep on this team, and I think that the Magic are going to be able to make noise. And I think that should be kind of the factor that we know the Magic will have a successful seasons. Can they make the noise? So the biggest question of the season preview is, will the Magic make the play-in tournament? Like, is this the year, or are we tanking for a win banana nana?
No.
Are we really doing that?
For who?
Are we banana nana? I still can't pronounce it, man. I refuse to do any.
You're trying your best.
I'm refusing to do any research on this upcoming draft class. I'm focusing on the season.
Right.
So, is it the play-in tournament or win banana nana?
Playing. I got playing. I don't see. I look at how much talent we have, and I know it's controversial. I said, like, before, like, you can expect, if things go wrong, expect to tank right away, because it's not like we don't have the facilities to tank. We're not near a high playoff caliber team. We know that, but the play-in is probably the most realistic avenue for this team if we're being real. A couple teams got worse in the East, if we're not forgetting that. You got Charlotte got a lot worse. I'm thinking they're looking to tank. LaMelo's not looking too happy there. I know there's some issues there. Detroit's still bad. Indy's gotten way worse. So you have these teams that are just getting worse and worse, and we're getting better and better. What's stopping us? Oh, Washington, they're bad. You have these teams that they're around that same level we are. Why not us? Why can't we be at that 10th spot at the very least? Why not make a jump to 9? Why not make a jump to 8? Because when you look at it, like you were talking about, Anthony, our second unit is going to be really fun. They have more talent on that second unit when you have Cole, you have Terrence Ross, Chumo Kiki, Jonathan Isaac, and Mo Bamba. That's a better lineup than our starting lineup was like half the season last year. We had Tim Frazier and all these other players that we didn't recognize. They were running our starting 5 for a good chunk of the season. And that was our starting 5. And a lot of our issues last year, our starters were great. Like they had so many stats to back it up. And our bench was the real pitfall for us, the bench. Now that our bench is really good, our starters are pretty good. There's a lot you can say about, okay, this team just saw one of its biggest weaknesses. Like you said, we do great, and then when our bench goes in, we give up these horrible runs. And it's like, wow, that game was in our hands. We had it. And you just give it up because you have to sub out players. They get tired. It happens. The thing is there's just too much talent. I look at this team, and there's too much talent for them to fail, like consistently fail over, unless it's blatant taking. That's the only avenue in which I'd say, okay, yeah, they're not going to be a playoff team because they're blatantly taking, because there's some ulterior motive that we don't know about, that maybe they have their eyes really dead set on Wembanyama or Wembanana, right? We might not know these things behind the scenes. But the thing is there's too much talent on this team, and if they really do try, they really put a lot of effort, and obviously the players and Coach Moses has been very vocal about it. It's in the pod squad. He said that's his main goal is to win. You're not looking at internal development. That's the main goal. Get these players looking good. No, you want to win. And if this team is at full strength, assuming no horrible injuries, nothing crazy happens, no big downfalls, that's a play-in team. And I'm not being a homer when I say that. They're really a talented team. So I think play-in is very realistic.
Oh, so you're thinking that just one more year tanking?
I don't think tanking. I just think that unfortunately we may fall a little bit short. I do expect this team to take a leap. We won 22 games last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we win 32 this year. Like we saw in the standings last season, though, the team that actually made the play-in had won 42 games. So for us to kind of get to that level, it would require us to win approximately 18 to 20 games more to be in that conversation if we go based on last year's standings. Listen, I'll be the first one in line to say I would love to see the Magic host a play-in tournament game here in Orlando. I would be their first guy buying tickets. I just fear that we're not quite there yet. If the team is healthy, if everything goes as planned, it could happen. It really could. But I just don't know if we're quite there yet. I think we're maybe 1 year away from that major leap to actually make it in that conversation. And we need a little bit of help too. I think we have some great talent, but we still need shooting in this team. Some nights shooting is going to hurt us. So again, if everyone makes a major leap, Jalen Suggs, J.I. is healthy, Markelle takes a step forward, Wendell's even better, and all that kind of happens in the same season, hey, that's special. We'll definitely be in the playoffs. But if something goes wrong, thinking about health, thinking about maybe that improvement not happening with some guys, I think you'll see a leap, just not quite enough to make it to the tournament. But what about you, Anthony? What do you think?
So when it comes to, let's fast forward into the draft this upcoming season, right? After the season, it's important to remember that we have that Chicago Bulls pick. It's important. It's really important because we just got a report that Lonzo Ball is going to have to go through another surgery. He's not going to be ready by training camp. Some days he feels good, some days he doesn't. And we saw the way that team collapse towards the back end of the season with the injuries of Caruso, Lonzo Ball, and really them just being able to only have Vooch and DeRozan. Like they didn't function well. And I think that I'm okay with like I hope Chicago tanks. Like I hope they tank, right?
You want to beat them to the punch. Like, that this team is getting worse and the top-ended East is only getting better. We could take their spot, and we're still going to get a lottery pick out of it.
Exactly. So kick them while they're down. Like, we don't want them to be too bad because it is a protected pick, but we want to be able to take their spot and push them down, and we're still in a really, really good position. And I think that going is so crucial for this team going into the season, that there's not a plan with the front office to keep players out and to not perform. Like, this has to be the season where, all right, let's really see what we have. Let's try to win as many games as possible. This isn't the time to experiment to the extent of being okay with losing games. Like, let's have them play meaningful basketball. And I think this is the season to do it, because one, you don't want to set the wrong expectations with Paolo. Like, Paolo is your cornerstone. He's your, what you're expecting to be your franchise player for years to come. You want him to feel as if, man, this is what we're growing. We're going to be this team. We're already competing, and all we did was just draft me. That's it. Now imagine what they're able to do once they start saying, okay, Paolo works really well with this player. I really like this dynamic. This scheme works best. And then you can make adjustments through trade, through upcoming free agency for next season when the Magic do have a lot of money. Then you can really see, and then plug and play with whatever you get from the draft in Chicago. So I think that when Balama Lama shouldn't be anywhere near our conversation at all. That might be the name of the episode.
That's a smart.
I might have to convince Al. That might be the name. When Banana Nana. So now, Kieran, we're gonna do some rapid fire. All right, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. Rapid fire. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind. All right, you ready?
Go ahead.
Will Jonathan Isaac play more than 50 games?
No.
Will he be a starter at any point during the season?
Yes.
Will Jalen Suggs shoot more than 32% from three-point range?
Yes.
Will Markelle Fultz average more than 9 assists per game?
No.
Wendell Carter Jr. continues to improve. Will he have a better season?
Yes, all-star.
Will Paolo Banchero win Rookie of the Year?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you? I read something online. I don't know if it's real. Is that a Bamba or Banchero?
It's a Bamba.
Oh, okay. I was gonna make you prove it, bro.
Banchero for.
I was gonna make you prove it. I read somewhere. I don't know if it's real that Bobo is eligible to win Rookie of the Year. That he would be considered a rookie.
I read that too. Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw a curveball and add it one. Does Bobo win a rotational spot? Is he a contributor?
Yes. And can I go a little further on this one?
Go a little further. Please elaborate.
Like we were talking about with Gary Harris being out, with that second unit, you have a sort of a weakness when it comes to that 3 spot, 3 and 4 alternating between. You got JI there, and like I said, I don't know how reliable that's going to be. There's a real solid chance Bobo gets a rotational spot, and I'm not talking just like garbage time. I'm talking 15 minutes a game, and we could really see improve himself. Like this, the kid has talent. We've seen on T. Ross went on his podcast and said something like this. He's doing like some crazy stuff in practice, just going crazy on everyone, talking a lot of trash, just being this insane unicorn player that everyone wanted him to. Everyone saw it. Everyone wanted him to be. And when you give him a real chance to flourish with a group of young guys, this is a perfect environment for him. I see no reason why he can't overtake Chuma Okeke's spot in the rotation, why he can't overtake, so-and-so spot in the rotation, because at the end of the day, no one's spot is safe unless you're a star, because everyone's fighting for your job. Everyone's fighting to take your spot. Everyone's fighting to take your minutes. If Bobo really works hard at it, if Bobo really proves himself in practice, we see the crazy stuff that he does in his highlights. There's no reason for him not to be playing 15 to 20 minutes a game as a bench contributor. So rookie of the year, no, I'm not going to go that far. But all rookie team, second team, you never know. It's there. It's a possibility. So, yeah, I think he can be a contributor. I think he can be a bench player, like a real rotational player. Hot take?
I think the only way that happens is if there's some significant injuries. So you may have Chuma out, and then you have J.I. out, and then you got to play ball. But I mean, trust me, I would love for that to happen. I just don't understand how you would play him again over a guy like Chuma, who's kind of been building on his game. J.I. Something's gonna happen for that to happen. Yeah. Whether it's a trade, something's gonna happen. But I don't know. That's an interesting take for sure.
I got my hot takes, bro. I got to put it out there.
If it happens, we're talking documentaries. We're talking about bobbleheads in the arena. We're talking
it's
about
our
major.
It's our insanity. We got
major exposure. We're ESPN. They're having conversation on the first take. Like, how the hell did they allow Bobo to be on this team? Like this, Bobo to me has this dynamic about him where he was expected to be really up there, and then it just didn't pan out. But you're not surprised it didn't pan out, right?
Yeah.
But he has this thing about him that if he's able to break through, is going to be insane. It's going to go viral. Like the minute that he's in an actual game and he does anything, crossover, step back, 3-point shot, nails it, it's going viral. 100%. 100%. House of Highlights, Bleacher Report, everywhere.
Bro, he was doing that in garbage time games in the bubble. Correct. And it was still on Bleacher Report. It was still all over the place. And you put him in a real game setting, dude.
So now you guys get why the Magic didn't draft Chet. We already have Chet in our team.
Exactly. Yeah, we have Chet. We just need a little time in the oven. That's it. That's it.
So wait, I'm going to improvise a quick question, Anthony, before we wrap up. I know we're almost done here with time, but one final question for you. Best Magic player this season. When you look back at the end of the year, who had the best season, the most impact on this team? Who's that guy?
You automatically, like, you hope that it's Paolo. Like, that's number one pick. That's why you draft him. You hope that it's him. But it's hard for me. Like, if I'm gonna put money on it, it's hard for me not to say Franz. I think that Franz is you draft, like, when we drafted him be like the notion that was sold was that, you know, he's not a player that needs to have the ball in his hand. He can move without the ball. He can impact the game without physically having the ball in his hand. But man, that dude creates magic with the ball in his hand. No pun intended. Like, he can do anything and everything on the court. If he needs to step back, if he needs to take control more, like, you feel comfortable with him doing that. I think that Paolo will end up being the best player towards the end of the season. I think that, you know, in the beginning, I think there's going to be an adjustment. I could be completely wrong, but I think that Franz is at the very least, you're guaranteed, you know exactly what you're getting. You're saying this about a sophomore. You're saying this from a player that only has one NBA season under his belt, and he took Euro basketball by storm.
Yeah.
And he's changing the way people are viewing the Orlando Magic. Like, damn, this dude can really play. So that would be, Franz would be my pick for sure. On that note, man, what an episode. Season preview. We're less than a month away from Orlando Magic basketball. It's going to be insane. So many different dynamics, so many different stories that can come out of this basketball season. We're really excited. Orlando Magic HQ that we're going to be representing at Media Day. Alan Kieran will be out there representing, so a lot to look forward to. If you haven't already checked out our articles, Kieran does a really, really good job along with Jay and our boy Luke. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't had a chance to review it, OrlandoMagicHQ.com. A lot of great work. Kieran, I appreciate you joining us. KP20 Magic, if you're not already following, make sure you do so. Season preview, it's a wrap. On that note, catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. For all the latest Orlando Magic news and updates, follow us on Twitter at the OZone Pod and on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.